morning, and be very welcome to this Madrid space in Paris. In Paris, for us, for my Invest in Madrid, that is a regional office in charge of promoting the foreign direct investment. It's a pleasure to be here, not only to be here as Invest in Madrid, but also with three very interesting people trying to explain why Madrid is a very good place to invest, and specifically to invest with a focus on the space sector. So Madrid, and before starting and trying to present the three people that are with me in this round table, Madrid represents 90% of the total sales of the space sector in Spain, with very important R&D centers, also big companies such as Airbus, Thales, GMV, with important clusters, new space clusters and technological clusters working together in order to increase the R&D and the industrial footprint of the region, and also with a strong commitment in order to increase the FDI and to lead, as we are leading now, the FDI flows in Spain. We received more than 70% of the global FDI that comes to Spain. So very pleased to be here, and I would like to present briefly to the three people that are here with me. First of all, from the left, Rosalía Vicente is European Union project manager in Fundación Madrid +D. That is the responsible for promoting the R&D in our region. We have also here Sara Correllero, that is the co-founder and CEO of ENI Space, a very new and important startup and company now in Madrid that is developing different solutions, and also she is in another side of his life the president of the new space cluster. So I think we have two important perspectives here. And thirdly, we have also David Orgaz, that is CEO of Madrid Space, another company specialized in this sector, and the three of them very, very open to explain why we can be competitive in this sector, and what we want from them is to explain their experience. So we are going to divide the dialogue in three blocks, and we will start talking on why Madrid is an important ecosystem and what big assets can we offer. And we would like to start asking Rosalía, with your view and with your approach from Madrid +D, why and what specific assets make Madrid a very strong and competitive region for this sector in Europe, and which is your view about the ecosystem of Madrid?
I will use this one. Okay. Thanks for the question, Luis. I guess you're going to be, or like our companies that are here today with us are going to be able to complement also what I'm going to explain about the ecosystem in Madrid. But basically, we're not only hosting main international institutions such as the NASA, some of the NASA installations, the ESA, the Astronomy Center. We are hosting our main research centers in Spain. We have the National Institute for Aerospace Technologies. We have the Spanish Research Center. And this is, of course, one of the biggest assets we have in Madrid as the capital of the country. But we also have additional, let's say, added value that we can say. We have a very highly skilled workforce in Madrid. We have some of the main universities placed in, let's say, technological careers, bachelors and masters in aerospace engineering. We are hosting also some of the main research in some of these areas in those universities.
Conference Madrid region, a hub of innovation and excellence for the European space industry, has just begun. If you could make your way.
Should I continue? Okay, so this highly skilled workforce that we're having in Madrid is one of the, let's say, attractive for companies to come to our region, and also for our own startups and bigger players in the region. Secondly, I think we have a very good balance of big players, let's say bigger companies like, you have Airbus, we have Sener, we have Indra in the region, but we also have very good startups and SMEs working. alongside these research centers. So what we are doing is having an ecosystem very focused on research development and innovation, not only on like the commercial side of the aerospace field, but also focusing on research and also connected with those international institutions we have. Of course, third place, we have nice weather. No, I'm kidding. We have a connection with a different ecosystem outside of the European Union. We also have, or we are considered as a gateway to Latin America, for instance. We have very good connections to other markets. So this is also the added value for people, or like for companies in the space field to come to Madrid and, let's say, invest in our ecosystem. In the terms, or like related to international connections, and this is my expertise because I'm specialized in EU funds, we are very well positioned in a specific research, let's say programs such as the ERC, the Maria Skłodowska-Curie for like attracting researchers to the region. So these are also like additional perspectives we can consider for our region to be a big hub. The growth that we experienced in the last 5 years is amazing. We grew by 200% in the numbers of startups. We are hosting currently half of the startups in the space field in Spain. So if you need to consider Spain as a strategic partner, Madrid would be the place.
Thank you, Rosalía. And now we are going to approach, and I will give the floor to David in order to listen your view about what's going on in Europe regarding this sector and how Madrid companies and companies from Madrid and the ecosystem of Madrid is trying to work and to shape this future of the European perspective.
Yeah, thank you, Luis, and thank you, everyone. So my vision is like this. As Rosalía mentioned, we have a powerful ecosystem in the region. That ecosystem started in terms of time with the already traditional and, let's say, all the space companies like Airbus, Thales, Enel, and so on. But what it's interesting for me is that the so-called new space is, I would say, not new anymore, in the sense that in Madrid, in particular, all over Europe in general, there's been a strategy all over the last 15, 20 years in order to foster the creation of new companies, back in 2000, 2005, and 10, and so on. So the current situation is that we have relatively small companies motivated by the new space approach, which are already consolidated. I mean, here we have ENI, ourselves, and many others that are, startups in one sense, but not in the complete sense of the word, in the sense that we are already consolidated. We have a trajectory that supports us, and we are ready to tackle the challenges of the future. Then my vision is that the next step is to make sure that since we are already consolidated, we are able to face the challenges of the new steps in the space race, which are related to the constellations. From my perspective, we are now facing the constellation age. The next 5 years will be a boom of constellations. There will be a lot of satellites to be manufactured in an industrial way, and therefore we need to make sure that now we are consolidated, but we have to, again, make sure that we are able to manufacture in an industrial way. That's the main role that the space companies in Madrid in particular have to take.
Okay, thank you very much. And to complete this first block, I will now give the floor to Sarah in order to, after listening about the trends and how can we take a role in this European future, and also, as Rosalía mentioned before, what's going on and what assets do we offer. I would like to ask Sarah specifically how your company, ENI Space, was helped and supported by different programs and infrastructure and assets that the ecosystem offer, and how, as a business case, how did you increase your future and what you started to do in order to be what you are now, and also what's going on in your company in order to increase your footprint in our region?
Okay. Well, thank you very much. for being here. It's a pleasure. Actually, yeah, our story is a bit like I actually did my PhD here in Paris, in France. I'm an aerospace engineer. Then I came here to do my PhD, and then I went back to Madrid to co-found my company, which is called ENI Space. We manufacture and develop electric propulsion systems for small satellites and solutions for space mobility. And actually, Madrid was, I met my co-founders in the University Carlos III of Madrid, which, what you were saying, like we have universities in Madrid that are really full of talent, no? And I had the chance to meet my co-founders there when I was partially doing my PhD between Paris and Madrid. And then we decided that we found actually that there was a problem in the market that was not solved. That was the propulsion for small satellites, for very small satellites with very low power. And that's where ENI Space is focused, and that's what we're developing. No? And Madrid was the perfect place to do this because actually the first funding that we obtained when we were PhDs, we were just finishing our PhD, was from the community of Madrid, because they had like programs of research and innovation, and you're able to obtain funding when you are at very, very low TRL, like TRL2, and you're already able to obtain some funding to start developing prototypes. And for us, that we wanted to develop a new technology, a technology that didn't exist in the market, it was crucial, no? This step. Then, of course, we found the accelerators, which also I think is something very important to mention. No, in Madrid, there's the business accelerator from the European Space Agency. It's working really well. Like they are managing all the small companies with ideas. They are giving us like a lot of support. And the first draft that we did for our business model was they really changed the way we were doing things. So this was also I will say a very huge step, no? And yeah, then I will say, I mean, I agree with all my colleagues. Like Madrid is a place where you can find all the big companies are placed there. Like you have Airbus, you have GMV, Indra, but also like there's a very strong ecosystem for the new space, and this is something that I think it's also important to mention. Like, and also because this is my, I'm co-founder of ENI Space, but I'm also president of the Madrid Innovation and New Space Cluster, which is a cluster of only companies of new space that we are based in Madrid, and there are companies doing like thermal analysis on the cloud. We have also Madrid Space. We have companies manufacturing Pico satellites. We have a company that they have deployed 17 satellites in the space into space in the last 3 years. So we have a very, very strong new space ecosystem, I will say, and this cluster, and it's growing at a huge speed, no? And something that it's also important is like in Spain, we now have finally a Spanish space agency. And this is also changing quite a lot how things were working, no? And I think now it's the perfect moment to found a company in Madrid and in Spain particularly, because we have a lot of support from the government now.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And now, getting deeply in the second block, we will talk now about infrastructure and how we think in Madrid that the public and private collaboration has to be developed. We have, as you mentioned also, Rosalia, 6 public universities, 13 private universities with a deep knowledge and trying to get more and more talent prepared for this sector. Of course, you can imagine, and we have a more competitive cost than other European regions. So we are trying to get more companies and to fulfill what the economists said as the booming moment of Madrid. And I will now want to ask, in this case, Rosalia, from your institution, from Fundación Madrid +D, that is in charge of developing the R&D in the region. What are you doing? What priorities do you have? And how can you help companies as here? You are now here. You have also several meetings in Paris with other institutions in order to increase that activity. What's going on in Fundación Madrid +D, and how can you help companies in order to come to Madrid and to develop their business?
Thank you, Luis, for the question. I think Sara already mentioned some of the programs we have in Madrid, Madrid +D. As you know, maybe you don't know, but Madrid Más Day is a public foundation. We depend of the regional government of Madrid, and our goal is really to strengthen and foster the ecosystem of research and development across the region. So we are connecting all the actors we have from the public and private universities, research centers, and also the SMEs and the big players in the ecosystem. And we have specific programs dedicated to space actors in the ecosystem. One of them is the ESABIC, the Business Incubation Center of the ISA in the region. So far, I think we've supported more than 40 startups in growing up, both developing their upstream and downstream technologies related to space. And this program, and it's not specific for the Madrid region, but we were one of the pioneers, and I think it's a great example of successful collaboration from the public sector in Spain and European Space Agency, like international institution. Furthermore, we have a second program in Madrid Más Day, which is the Enterprise Europe Network. Well, I just forgot to mention, we have very good examples also here with Madrid Space and Genai Space of companies that were incubated in the ESABIC and that they have been growing internationally. There is a perfect connection between the ESABIC and the second program we have, which is the Enterprise Europe Network. The Enterprise Europe Network, it's a network funded by the European Commission, mainly aimed at supporting the internationalization of SMEs. Both in Europe and beyond. Me personally, I'm currently co-chair of the sector group Aerospace and Defense. We have our colleagues from the Paris Chamber of Commerce that are representing the same sector here in France, and it's a deep connection between all the regions across Europe that are working with space companies, not only space, aerospace, space, and also defense, to support them not only reaching international partners or cooperation, but also accessing EU funds. So we have dedicated programs for supporting the participation of our researchers and SMEs in EU programs. Some of them are the most competitive ones across Europe. We are working specifically with the EIC Accelerator. We are working with the European Research Council. We are working right now with the national focal points of the European Defence Fund also to support these dual-use technologies, the application of space technologies also in the field of defense. And we also recently founded or created the cluster of technological innovation and talent in space, which is an additional cluster. It's not the newest space cluster. It's one cluster, let's say, pampered by the Madrid region, and the idea is to gather all the key agents in the ecosystem of Madrid and not only make them available like at the international level, but make the connections within our ecosystem. Because sometimes we have very good examples of cooperation between all the agents, but not all of them know each other, and sometimes only like giving this space for them to know each other and know what projects they're working on, it's fostering also collaborations across the region.
Thank you very much. And now, once we have explained and analyzed all the programs we can, develop and offer companies, we will now go deeply to know specifically, in your case, in your company, David, what is going on? What are you working in regarding innovation? And can you tell us any announcement on any idea that you are working in?
Yeah, thank you again, Luis. Well, first thing that I would like to mention is that, as Rosalia has just mentioned, there's a significant structured strategy to support companies in Madrid, as we have just mentioned before as well. And the thing is that our technologies, or our developments, probably wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be presenting those developments without the support of Fundación Madrid Más Day, EEN, and so on. Because in our case as well, first funding that we got to develop our technology was specifically thanks to the ISABIC program. That's why it was quite interesting for us, quite important, and it's still important for us all the way until we are properly in the market. So the first technology that we started working on back in 2016 already, so it's a long journey since then, is based on additive manufacturing to create structures with embedded thermal solutions in them. We identified that there's a clear trend towards compactness in the satellites. They are smaller and smaller, and they dissipate more heat because of the needs of more in-orbit processing. So we thought, okay, why don't we use fluid systems inside the structures. If we manufacture the structures with additive manufacturing, we are able to create inside fluid channels, and therefore we are able to remove heat more efficiently. The current status of the technology is that we are expecting by the end of the year to be able to be in the market and to use the technology specifically in, as I was mentioning before, in constellations where the demands of in-orbit processing will be really, really high. That's the, let's say, our flagship technology, and now we are starting the development of the structures with natural fibers, okay? Because we are really concerned about sustainability, and I will go into detail of that later more. But yeah, the idea is that debris is critical, specifically in LEO, and there's a need for demisability. So with natural fibers in the structures, we are able to decrease the carbon footprint, and we are also able to minimize the debris creation once the satellite re-enters in the atmosphere. That's at an earlier stage of development, but that will be our, let's say, flagship technology in the future as well.
Thank you, David. And finally, to complete this vision, one of the things that are quite getting more important in Europe has to do with the regulation and how innovation and regulation need to be together, and how Europe needs to, well, to see how to be and not to lose competitiveness due to the regulation that is going on in our continent. So regarding, and in your case, Sarah, being a deep tech company and startup, how important is for you to have a very stability regulation, a very well, the commitment of the region in order to be very fast or quick in all the administrative aspects? Can you tell us your experience and your view in this area?
Well, for sure, like I think if we compare like how we do things in Europe with how things are made in the US, no, I think we still need to, I mean, we are definitely going slower, and this is sometimes it's due to because we have too many regulations, no, in the sector. It is true, however, that I mean, for us particularly, I think it's critical, no, to have regulations in what concerns, for example, to space mobility, because this is something that is becoming a very critical issue for the space sector, like to having satellites out there without the capabilities of maneuvering in space, and this is currently a trend for the very, very small satellites. This is happening a lot, no? Like satellites are being launched without propulsion, for example, and this is something that we cannot afford, I think, as a sector. This is something where Europe also must. This is kind of a personal opinion, but I think we must lead this war, let's say it with these words, no? But it is true also, like we must for us as a small company and as a let's say company that we are developing a new technology. We are actually at TNI we are developing everything in-house, so we are doing all the propulsion system with all the electronics, the fluidics, the microtechnology part, like everything in-house. We need to test and we need to prove the technologies in space. And this, if we had too many regulations, maybe it will be more difficult for us to access this market. No, so I think we need to find an intermediate solution. I would say we need to be able to move fast. We need to be able to test. We need to have opportunities to perform like fast in-orbit demonstrations, for example, and this is something that also from the government side, I think they can support a lot the small companies to provide, let's say, or to give access, no, to these in-orbit demonstrations. The European Commission already is doing this with the Cassini initiative, for example, but we need more opportunities. But at the same time, for sure, we also need to ensure that the space is going to be as sustainable. No, and we need that we cannot afford, as I would say, all the sector need to be very aware that we cannot put out there like satellites that they cannot maneuver because it's going to be a big problem. No? So I will say we need to find an intermediate solution, and in Europe, we need to lead this, I guess.
Thank you very much. And now entering the third block and taking the idea of the European situation and context, I would like to ask Rosalia, how, from your point of view, how SMEs and companies from Madrid can remain competitive in this ecosystem, and what keys should they follow in order to remain competitive and to try to be very internationally connected. This summit is a good example of how we want to be in touch with companies and investors from all over Europe, and of course very focused in this sector. From your point of view, how they can, and of course from the public side, how can we continue being working in order to be competitive and to be very well connected internationally?
Thank you, Luis. I think Sarah already mentioned some of these key points we're going to talk about, and I don't think they only apply to Madrid SMEs. It's going to be applying for most of SMEs across Europe. I would focus on three main areas for this competitiveness, or to remain competitive for SMEs in the field of space. First of them would be, as you mentioned, international collaboration, but not only within Europe, but beyond, also with key stakeholders in different countries. We are from the public sector and also from the European perspective. We are hosting different initiatives, mainly aimed at connecting European SMEs also with key markets outside of Europe, such as we're working with Canada, we're working with New Zealand, with Japan, like new partners that can be also very strategic in the future. For this, I'm not only talking about, public-private partnerships, private collaborations, but also the participation in research and innovation projects with these countries, because there are existing opportunities for funding that. Second of it would be technology transfer. We're already working on that. Technology transfer, both from the research, like the deep research field, to the market, but also the time to market of the innovations we're already having, or we are already working in Madrid. There are specific programs to support this technology transfer in both senses, but sometimes it's not enough, and sometimes researchers are also disconnected to like the industry. It shouldn't be like that. They should be really involved with the industry, and we should maybe replicate some other models we have outside of Europe. And third of all, and this is maybe one of the hot topics or trend topics right now after the release of the Draghi and the Letos report related to self-sufficiency of Europe in terms of innovation and technology, and not really depending on external partners. I think related to that, the use of dual-use technologies and cross-sector collaboration should be emphasized. And for companies such as yours in the field of space, you already have a lot of opportunities with what you're doing in different sectors. It can be applied to defense, can be applied to mobility. So this is some perspective to consider. We are trying also to enhance this access to different sectors and to the defense sector. As I mentioned, the European Defense Agency is very recent. The European defense funds are not that well known across Europe and also for our companies. And we are trying to facilitate this access to the new funds, because they are a great opportunity. They are going to continue growing in the upcoming years. We don't know about the funds for space. I mean, the ESA is going to keep on funding space projects. The Horizon Europe is less and less funding specific or dedicated projects to space. So I think you need to find which are the gaps, and where you can actually get funds, and not only talking about private funds, public funds, sorry, but also about private investment. So these would be the three main points for any SME to consider to remain competitive in the sector.
Thank you. Rosalia, we linked in many cases as we did before, competitiveness with public policies and with regulation. And now, David, I would like to ask you, from your point of view, what type of policies, of what line of action should the public sector develop in order to be to develop your work and to continue developing innovation and being competitive? What policies do you need to be, you think that are need to be implemented in order to continue working in this sector?
Okay, I think that here the main issue maybe it's not fully related with the policies, or the technologies are consequences of the problems or the challenges that we have ahead of us. So first of all, at the current stage, we have just mentioned that. From my perspective, one of the main problems or the main challenges that we have ahead is debris mitigation, debris removal. And again, policies and technologies to mitigate this problem have to be hand in hand. And they have to be actively removed or passively removed. Actually, we have now here a couple of examples of companies working in that direction. And again, policies and technologies have to be working together to mitigate this problem. And then for the future, the problems that I see specifically are not maybe totally related with LEO, with our backyard, which we have really here close to Earth, but exploration to Moon, to Mars, asteroid mining, and so on. Then the problems, the challenges are totally different. And here I see two specific technologies that are critical for the future. One of them is propulsion. So Sarah, you will have a lot of work in the future to tackle with this challenge. And also in-orbit manufacturing. In-orbit manufacturing will be critical in order to allow the access to resources that are really far away from Earth. So those are the critical points now, debris mitigation, and for the future, propulsion and in-orbit manufacturing.
Thank you, David. And finally, to complete again the vision of this third block, I will ask you, Sarah, 20 and 25, this year seems to be quite interesting for the sector, and specifically in the plans of your company, of VNI Space, what milestones or goals do you have set for this year?
Yes, well, thank you very much. Yeah, definitely this year. I mean, every year is a new record year for the space sector, so this year I hope that it's going to be the same. For us at VNI Space, it's particularly a very critical moment, I will say, because we are finally demonstrating our technology in space. So we have 3 in-orbit demonstrations for this year happening. So hopefully we'll be able after that to put all our propulsion systems, let's say, out there in the market. So it's going to be a very, very interesting year. Also, we just closed our seed round last year, 4 million euros, and this has allowed us to grow like from 12 people to 30 people now. Also, by the way, it's we closed the round with investors from Madrid, actually, from venture capitals that are based in the region. And so it's, I will say it's a beautiful year, but also with a lot of expectations, because we will be able to demonstrate technology, and hopefully we'll be the first company in Spain to develop electric propulsion systems for small satellites. So we are very happy to see what's coming out from there.
Quite an interesting year. So 11 months, we have 11 months to see all that milestones. Well, thank you very much to the 3 of you, and of course, thank you very much to all the people here. We wanted to present the region as a very, very open region and very business-friendly region to all companies, but of course with a focus on the space sector. We offer a very wide ecosystem with talent, with R&D centers, with companies, as you mentioned before, big, medium, SMEs and startups. So quite an open representation of the companies with a public sector that supports all the private activity. We are very open to receive new investors and new companies, and in Invest in Madrid you have an open door in order to ask for any information, any help, we offer as a public office, we offer tax-free and confidential services. So very open to get in touch with any of you. And thank you thank you very much for your assistance. Thank you.